A job where you can grow a lucrative career in multi-platform audio, digital, podcast, social media, and local events, along with world-class training and career growth opportunities. KBLA Talk 1580, located in historic Leimert Park, is currently hiring entry-level account executives for outside sales. Join a team featuring radio hosts Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornell West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, Zoe Williams, and our very own Dominique DePrima. For more information on attending our upcoming career fair, contact SMB at KBLA1580.com today.
Work, 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 work. Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting. A movement of people, it's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They could be riches that know no borders. For so long, them folks try to ignore us. So we at the ballot box, it's a vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia.
You are listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. It's nice to be home here in Los Angeles with each and every one of you. Look, I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ. That's all you got to do. And there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. And there we are for your listening pleasure. Subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast and never, ever, ever miss an episode. Can I just say happy Lunar New Year to all of our Asian American folks who are celebrating. I didn't know this, but more than 1 billion people worldwide are celebrating the Lunar New Year, ushering in the Year of the Snake. Yeah, the Year of the Snake. It began today. It's called Tet in Vietnam, and it's celebrated in Asia and abroad, and we are commemorating it here because we're in community with our AAPI brothers and sisters and siblings. And so happy Lunar New Year to each and every one of you. Now it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And just right before we went on air, this headline right here, Meta say it ain't so. ABC News reporting that Meta agrees to pay $25 million to settle a lawsuit with President Trump. That's right. Meta has agreed to settle with President Donald Trump after he was accused, or after he accused the company, rather, of violating his rights by suspending the president's social media account following the January 6th attack on the Capitol. It's according to a letter from Meta's attorneys. Meta confirmed that it will be making a donation. Get this. a donation of $22 million to Trump's presidential library and will also pay $3 million in legal fees. In July 2021, Trump sued Meta and its CEO Mark Zuckerberg for censoring, that's what he called it, censoring his social media account after the January 6th attack, accusing the company of colluding with Democratic lawmakers to silence the then former president. This settlement comes as Zuckerberg has attempted to smooth his relationship with Trump, prominently attending his inauguration earlier this month and making multiple trips to Mar-a-Lago. And Meta just happened to donate $1 million to his campaign. They happen to have just ended their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. They happen to have, quote unquote, revamped their fact-checking policies, while Zuckerberg has expressed regret for his company's past policies. Where are Meta's values? Where are they? You all can get at me in the DMs and send them to me if you can find them. Where are your values? Because if you changed like that, if you changed on a dime like that, I mean, we're not even a full 2 weeks into the new presidency. You've turned on a dime like that. All your espoused values aren't really your espoused values. And that's why people on social media and elsewhere are calling this out. Moving along, well, talking about Trump, he has signed the Laken-Riley Act into law. This is one of the first laws that he is, one of the first bills he signed into law. President Trump today signed an immigration detention measure into law, marking the first legislative win of his second term as the Republican-led Congress angles to execute his agenda. NBC News reporting that the House gave its final approval of the bill in a 263 to 156 vote last Wednesday. That included 46 Democrats joining all Republicans in favor. The measure also passed the Senate last week in a 64 to 35 vote with 12 Democrats breaking with their party to back it. So this is not a bill that got over the hump strictly with Republican votes. They could not have done this without the support of Democrats. I think that's worth noting. Trump opened his remarks with a victory lap, crediting his immigration agenda for his victory in the election and thanking the Republicans and Democratic lawmakers who sent the bill to his desk. And just in case you're less familiar with this bill, it was written by Representative Mike Collins. Mike Collins of Georgia. He wrote the bill, the Laken-Riley Act. It bears the name of the nursing school student who was murdered last year in Athens, Georgia. A Venezuelan citizen who had entered the U.S. illegally was convicted of her murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And so this act requires Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to detain undocumented immigrants who are arrested or face charges or who have been convicted of burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting. And so this is a part of the effort to get tough on immigration. Moving along, I don't know if anybody said get tough on federal workers, but Trump did make it clear during the campaign that this was what he intended to do. And guess what? He sure is doing it. Federal workers have been warned not to take Trump's resignation offer. Have you heard this about this buyout? If you are a federal worker or if you're friends with a federal worker, you better get on the group chat and let them know. He said the offer may appear like a soft landing for those who don't want to comply with the Trump administration's requirements to return to the office full time, but the email told employees that they have until February 6th to accept the deal, calling it a deferred resignation program. Anyone wishing to resign was instructed to reply to the email with the word resign and hit send. Almost immediately after the memo hit inboxes, federal workers actually began sharing their confusion, their anger, and disbelief on Reddit and elsewhere. Some of the confusion arose from mixed messages coming from the U.S. Office of Personnel Management. The original OPM memo was unclear on whether employees who choose to resign would be expected to work between now and September 30th. Well, an OPM spokesperson confirmed to sources just last night that the expectation was that employees would be put on paid administrative leave soon after they replied to the memo. But some employees are even wondering if the email is real. So here's the skinny of it. Don't reply to that email. Don't you do it. Early Wednesday, the White House press secretary defended the resignation offer, rejecting another union's characterization of it as an attempt to purge the government. The White House press secretary is saying that's absolutely false. But the president of the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers went as far to call the email a resignation threat. It was written pretty clearly that if you don't take this thing, the so-called offer, you may not have a job. The certainty of your position or agency is not assured. That's the way it read. They represent roughly 30,000 federal employees, including employees at NASA, the Army Corps of Engineers, Department of Defense, and Department of Justice. And they say that members who work in areas that the memo excludes from the resignation offer, including immigration enforcement and national security, nevertheless receive the memo. So stay in place. Don't take the bait. Don't take the bait. When we come forward, we're switching gears. We haven't forgotten about our brothers and sisters and siblings that are just still beginning to recover from the LA wildfires. While we're thinking of them, we're also thinking about the brave, the courageous firefighters that did their best to keep a bad situation from getting any worse. But what's life like, particularly if you are a Black firefighter? You know, there's some folks out there, right-wing influencers in particular, that are casting blame on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. We've even seen Elon Musk blame the LA wildfires on Black firefighters. When we come forward, Joshua Taborn, he joins us. He is the Legal Affairs Committee Chair for the Progressive Firefighters Association of D.C. That they're part of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. Joshua has something to say, and we're here for it. You're listening to and streaming a More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
You're listening to a More Perfect Union. A lot to talk about.
They can do anything they want to us. We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I stayed with the last words on my lips. Now I am a revolutionary.
On Saturday, February 22nd, you are invited to A Night with the Panthers, a special fundraiser dedicated to supporting Black Panther veterans who now require assistance with essential needs such as medicine, food, and housing. These Black Panther veterans championed human rights, fed the hungry, educated the community, and stood as powerful symbols of resistance and resilience. Despite their incredible sacrifices, loving and serving the people did not come with retirement plans or financial security. So, Now it's our time to honor their legacy and ensure that they are cared for with the dignity they deserve. You can help by attending and supporting A Night with the Panthers, Saturday, February 22nd, 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Project 43 Team Post Center, 6841 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles. For more information, contact Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. That's Black Panther Party Breakfast at gmail.com or call 707-554-2784. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
The clock will still be right here.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at tra.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hit me! National News The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. I also want to say a big welcome to our first-time listener, Marcus Ware. We see you, brother. Also, Dr. Robbie Perry is listening to us. Apparently, we'll be over here telling the truth. I don't know how to do it any other way. Thank you, brother, for supporting us. That's Dr. Robbie Perry, professor of political science at the Howard University. And speaking of DC's finest, I am really delighted to welcome our next guest. He is an expert in the field, and we are really big about making sure that we uplift the voices of leaders on the front lines. Joshua Taborn, he's a seasoned community organizer. He's also a former firefighter and EMT with several years of frontline emergency response experience. These days, he's the Legal Affairs Committee Chair for the Progressive Firefighters Association of DC, which is part of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. Who knew there was an International Association of Black Professional Firefighters? I'll tell you who knew. Joshua knew. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nii-Quartelai. I am honored to be here, and that was such a gracious introduction. You know, we don't deserve you.
You're very kind. You're very kind. And, you know, thank you for all the work that you do. And, you know, for me today, it was really important to zero in on those emergency responders, firefighters, folks on the front lines. You know, I saw some deeply troubling headlines, as I'm sure you have. And that's what in part inspired me to want to have this conversation with you. But first, let's lay the ground. Talk to us about just sort of the firefighting profession. How many folks are, you know, from communities of color? How many Black firefighters are there out there? And talk to us about the culture that allows firefighters to grow into leadership roles and the lack thereof.
Absolutely. So first, I'm going to introduce you to some jargon. We call it the fire service. And that's the all-encompassing term that speaks to career firefighters, volunteer firefighters, and even in some jurisdictions, EMTs and paramedics, so medical side of it all. In most jurisdictions in the United States of America, Black firefighters usually make up on average maybe 8 to 15%. I had the pleasure of serving in the District of Columbia, where we're around 51, 52% of the front line. So we're one of the blackest fire departments in the nation. I think right behind us is like Miami-Dade. But in general, you don't see too many people from our community in the fire service unless you're in a major city. And even then, it's disproportionate. So, FDNY, the Philly Fire Department, even LA, they have Black firefighters. But when you look at their population, the population of Black people in those cities, and then you look at the amount of Black firefighters there are, they're not congruent at all.
It doesn't sound like it, and the fact that there are, there's 51% Black folks in the fire service in DC, followed by places like Miami-Dade. Take your point, but nationwide, really more around 8 to 15%.
Yes,
and when we look at some of the headlines that have been trending, you would think that the majority of folks in the fire service nationwide were Black folks. What do you make of Elon Musk's comments about Black firefighters? Elon Musk blaming the LA wildfires on Black firefighters.
Well, my South African brother really bothers me. He disappoints me so much. But to be honest with you, that rhetoric falls in line with the rhetoric you'll hear from American fire departments. We don't make up the majority in most fire departments, and yet we're seen as less skilled. And we tend to be the ones blamed for the budget cuts and things like that. To answer your question specifically about Elon, I just think it's typical right now of this administration, the Trump administration, and anyone, surrounding it. They're being very forward about how they feel about people of color, and how they feel about minorities. I've spoken about this before. DEI is like the new N-word, in my opinion. And it's just a smokescreen, right? Elon is trying to blame Black firefighters when it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with the skill or the race of the firefighter. It has everything to do with the fact that the climate has changed, the fact that resources are limited, the fact that hiring is down. There's a lot of factors that go into that. And he's just touting the same lines Donald fed him, which is that President Trump, which is that we're going to continue to divide Americans via race, via class, via gender, so that they can't see what's really going on, in my opinion.
And talk about fueling the fire. For folks who are less familiar with what Elon Musk said, Futurism.com reported that they prioritize DEI over saving lives and homes. That's what Musk tweeted. He was responding to a post by the anti-LGBTQ hate account Libs of TikTok, which claimed that the LA Fire Department ensured its employees were, quote, racially diverse enough, something that was then contorted into racist vitriol in Musk's twisted mind. As much as we're talking about Elon Musk's tweet about firefighters here in LA while a natural disaster was taking place, sadly, Elon's perspective is, it's not on the margins. There are lots of challenges in terms of folks in leadership ranks, folks in the fire service that might agree with Elon Musk, no?
Absolutely. I can speak from my own experience. I was giving you numbers about DC, right? We make up generally half or maybe just a bit more than half of the frontline staff. I don't even think we make up 20% of the leadership. And the best statistic to speak to what we're talking about is while we make up just about half of the frontline employee force, we make up the majority of the discipline and the majority of the terminations. And that's fact. That's not opinion. The opinion behind that is that systemic, infrastructural, and systematic racism plays into all of this. I know Black firefighters all around the country. Being a part of the organization, you get to meet a lot of great people. And as much stuff as I dealt with in DC, I would still say DC in general is still a more progressive fire department than the others. You got to see the stuff that's going on. So I don't know if you know, but Black men have curly hair, or tend to have curly hair in their beards. And there's this big conversation.
Oh boy, do I know.
Right. And so, if Black men are relegated to shaving every day, which right now Black firefighters are ordered to shave every day to wear these masks, we're encountering folliculitis barbae, skin infections, so on and so forth. There is technology out there that can make it so that we don't have to shave. Most fire departments won't even approach or explore said technology because it just doesn't matter to them. It's a Black issue.
When we come forward, I want to dig a little bit deeper into just sort of the culture of the fire service.
Absolutely.
Really riffing off of some of the comments that we have read from Elon Musk, blaming LA wildfires on Black firefighters, to just some of the right-wing influencers out there that are casting blame on DEI policies. I think there's an opportunity for us to zero in on how we can do a better job supporting our emergency responders, which includes Black firefighters, Black folks in the fire service. I'm talking to Joshua Taborn. He is with the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, and you're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Enlightened and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice. You tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Federal Reserve is leaving interest rates unchanged. It comes after the Fed cut rates 3 times last year. It also marks the first policy decision during President Trump's second term. Trump has said recently he would like to see the central bank lower rates. As federal raids continue, Black St. Louis Mayor Tashara Jones is reaffirming the city's support for immigrants. However, Trump's orders have blocked many from settling there, per the Post-Dispatch. Lakeville Public Schools in Minnesota will remove 2 DEI posters referencing Black Lives Matter after a 4-3 vote. A lawsuit led to their removal following a heated school board meeting. Supporters say the posters promoted inclusivity, while opponents called them politically charged. And Louisiana lawmakers are urging the NFL to ensure a family-friendly big game halftime show, citing past concerns over lyrics and performances. Kendrick Lamar will headline on February 9th as Kansas City faces Philadelphia. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Pasadena, it's a crash on the 210 eastbound before Hill. It's out of lanes, but delays are loading up away from Lincoln. Granada Hills, earlier car fire extinguished. 118 eastbound before the 405. Traffic loading up away from DeSoto. Riverside, a crash on the 60 eastbound before the 215-91. Carpool lanes blocked. Delays away from Valley Way. And in Costa Mesa, slowing 55 northbound, leaving the 405, traveling towards the 5.
If you were self-employed or a 1099 contractor and missed work because you had COVID or cared for an immediate family member with COVID in 2021, You may qualify for up to $32,000 for the sick and family leave credit. Visit taxcreditnow.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers will be without Anthony Davis for at least a week. An MRI exam Wednesday morning revealed AD has a strained abdominal muscle. He suffered the injury in the first quarter of the Lakers' loss Tuesday night at Philadelphia. AD will miss the next 3 games. During the Lakers' recent 4-game winning streak, AD was averaging 32 points, 15 rebounds, and shooting 58%. More troubling news for the Lakers. Head coach J.J. Redick drew criticism for playing Bronny James Tuesday night in Philly. Bronny's performance reinforced opinions that LeBron's son is not yet ready for NBA competition. In 15 minutes against the Sixers, Bronny missed all 5 of his shots and committed 3 turnovers. In 13 games with the Lakers, Bronny is shooting 1 for 16 and 0 for 7 on 3-pointers. The Lakers need to keep Bronny in the G League the rest of the season. He will not get any better sitting on the Lakers bench. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you, neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. Sign up for Notify LA on your phone to get fire danger alerts and updates, or check on lafd.org. The Watch Duty app is free and provides wildfire maps and updates in real time. Keep your gas tank full and plan your route in case you have to leave the area. City and county officials are urging you to pack a go bag so you can be ready to leave your home quickly in case of an evacuation order. Your go bag should include a couple of days of clothing, copies of your important documents and ID, money, insurance information, your medications, electronic devices, batteries, chargers, a small radio, and emergency contacts. If you receive an evacuation order, gather your loved ones, grab your bag, your pet food, and leave immediately. For information on shelters for your pets or even your family, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 county-wide. Wearing a mask outside will help protect you from smoke, toxic fume, and particulate matter. If you don't need to go out, it's best to stay home with the windows closed. Getting to know your neighbors is a great way to stay safe, stay connected, and share resources. And Angelinos are stepping up to help. So reach out and find the assistance you need. Mutual Aid LA Network is constantly updating a Google Sheet with mutual aid resources. You can find it at tiny.cc-malan-fire. The earlier you make a plan, the better off you'll be when every second counts. Praying for LA, preparing, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and really delighted to be in conversation with Joshua Taborn. He is with the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. And thanks to all of our leaders, learners, and listeners that are tapped in. We see you. We see you. We appreciate you. We see Quentin Price there rooting on Mr. Taborn. And I'm just so glad that we have you here with us to help us sort of make sense out of what is afoot. Lots of headlines have been written and reported on related to the rollback in commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion. But a lot's also been written about and reported on related to the LA wildfires. particularly our brave and courageous frontline firefighters, people in the fire service. But we haven't talked enough at the intersection of those things. And what we were hoping to do today is to connect the dots. NPR reporting that within a day of wildfires igniting in LA, right-wing media and influencers began blaming the scale of the destruction on efforts to reduce systemic social inequality, notable diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. We've been talking about billionaire Elon Musk, who helped circulate screenshots of the LA Fire Department's 4-year-old racial equity action plan, writing, quotes, "They prioritize DEI over saving lives and homes." Joshua, talk to us a little bit about the culture of the fire service and what about that culture is inviting and disinviting to Black firefighters, Black folks in the fire service.
Thank you. I want to give a quick anecdote so that the juxtaposition makes sense for everybody. Growing up, I grew up in a family. A grandmother raised me. When a house burned down or was on fire on the street or around the corner, she was the one running outside with coffee and cookies and sandwiches for the firefighters. She would let them use the bathroom with all their dirty clothes. And she was a clean freak. No one was allowed in her house with shoes on, but they were. So my entire life, I had a reverence for the fire service and firefighters in particular. My first day at the academy, that all came crashing down. And while I'm still proud to be a firefighter, I'm going to now illustrate for you what it's like, specifically as a Black fireman. Your first week at the academy, older Black firefighters will come up to you and warn you. They'll say, keep your head down, don't talk too much, stay out of trouble, things like that. And I remember hearing that and you know, having went to Howard University, thinking about all the stories and narratives that came from like the plantation, pretty much saying like, don't stand out too much or else you'll get targeted. Don't speak up too much or else you'll get targeted. In general, like the police department, the fire service, we have these old institutions that have a very fraternal feel to them. And like a lot of fraternities, there's hazing. But the hazing just kind of always felt different when we were the ones being hazed. I'll give you an example. It's our job to clean. You know, we in the academy, we would clean the offices of our advisors and our teachers. There was one day where we were mopping the floor and we were told by a white instructor, if you mop this floor fast, I'll give you some of this cornbread. Now, I do love cornbread, but I just don't know that I wanted his cornbread for mopping the floor fast, you know? Or there's this big thing about making coffee. When you're new in a firehouse, it's your job to make the coffee. That's fine. But how it's discussed with you feels very untoward at times. And this is now past the academy and stuff like that. In general, the culture of firefighting is you're helping people, you're saving people. The joke we tell, because we're always competing with the police department, is when people call 911 and see the police, they're not happy. When they call 911 and see us, they're excited. They're happy to see us. We're here to help. Not to say the police don't help, but that's just how we tell jokes to each other. And so there's like a cognitive dissonance that goes on as a Black fireman, because you're being praised by the community, yet you're being told to dim your light within the firehouse. You see that when you make the same mistake as maybe a white counterpart, you are punished more severely. Or when rules are put forth throughout the entire fire department, they tend to not benefit you. And so it's heartbreaking at times. That's not to be confused with it's not enjoyable, but it is very tense. If you go up to a Black firefighter, and I charge all of you watching, find a Black firefighter, contact them, hit them up if you're friends with one of them, get them in a comfortable space, and then ask them, what's it really like? Because we're taught to give an answer to the public, but ask them, look into their eyes and ask them, how do you feel? What is it like? I will tell you right now, when we talk about PTSD with firefighters, everyone goes to the fire, the medical calls, the trauma associated with experiencing those things. And that is real. I got hurt in a fire and I was traumatized. But if you ask a Black firefighter where the majority of their stress comes from, they're going to tell you it's their coworkers.
Wow. First of all, I really appreciate you for being so transparent with us and for being so vulnerable with us and really giving us a bird's eye view as to what your experience has been in the fire service as a Black firefighter that's in community with other Black firefighters. How does that experience translate to Black firefighters in other parts of the country? I know you're based in Washington, D.C., where, as you mentioned earlier, about 51% of the firefighters in D.C. are Black, followed by Miami-Dade having a significant Black firefighter population. But what about other parts of the country, particularly out west? Do some of those cultural landmines, do they still hold?
Absolutely. So my work with the Progressive Firefighter Association and the International, like I said before, brings us to heads with a lot of people, a lot of firefighters from all over the world. In Cali, it's not only a race thing, but it's also, are you from the city? And I'm not from the West Coast, but from what I understand, LA City and LA County are like two different things. You know, like, is you from Compton or not? You know, like, and so they are treated differently, and there's not as many protections outside of the city fire department. So like the county fire department, there's a flat out, there's like a lot of jokes. There's Black jokes, and the way they cover over is like, well, we tell jokes about everybody. You know, you guys tell white jokes, we tell Black jokes. And it's like, not really, you know, and your Black jokes are a little different than my response. Like I always tell people, or like someone, actually, I'm friends with 2 Cali firefighters, and they always say, you know, you calling me the N-word and me responding with cracker doesn't have the same impact. Over in Cali, you also have the Latino, the Latinidad cross section. And a lot of people would assume that minorities just like naturally come together under oppression and build coalition. No. We saw with the election exactly what the Latinos feel. All right. And let me be clear. I'm Black. I'm Black as they come, blickety Black. I am also Puerto Rican. And I know firsthand what some of my Puerto Rican fellows say about some of my Black fellows, you know? And it's comparable to the metaphor, the phrase, crabs in a barrel, crabs in a bucket. And it's difficult. Specifically in California, and talking to my Cali firefighters, they have Black chiefs and Black executive leadership, but it's the type of Black leadership that's being promoted. And you see this, you know, when it comes to minorities in general. Let's talk about LA. The fire chief is white, or from what I understand, identifies as white. She also identifies to be a part of the LGBTQIA+.
That's right.
And Karen Bass is a Black woman. Now, we talk about all this feminism, and I truly believe in the theory of feminism, but more so I stand behind womanism, because feminism only seems to work when it's a white woman up top. You saw how fast she attacked Mayor Bass, you know? And so that just speaks to the type of behavior you would see amongst firehouses in California. That's the culture over there. It's very alienating. And so what a lot of Black firefighters do is they just kind of tune it out. And when they finally retire, they have that mental breakdown later. You know, we're still, as a community, somewhat adverse to therapy, specifically. And I know a lot, therapy is cool, and everyone's like, oh, we go to therapy now. Not blue collar Black folks, not like that, you know. Even in DC, you know, they'll say, oh, you know, see a therapist. And then when you do, everyone calls you crazy. When you start taking medication for your PTSD, everyone acts like something's really wrong with you, and they make fun of you, and you lose promotion opportunities. You lose people who want to trade shifts with you. it's difficult.
And so, what gives you hope? What gives you hope? What gives you and some of your colleagues that are part of the fire service, Black firefighters? What gives you hope in this environment where you're seeing this war, this unrelenting war on all things diversity, equity, and inclusion? You're seeing right wingers go after Black firefighters, Black folks in the fire service who have earned their leadership roles, going after them, reducing them to being, quotes, a DEI hire. What gives you hope that this too shall pass, that we can turn the corner, and that more importantly we can do better? To every elected official that is listening to this, that is going to nominate someone to serve as a fire chief or in leadership in the fire service, what do you want to tell them?
Oof. How much time we got? I'm
actually going to ask you to hold there. Okay. We're gonna when we come forward, I want to give you a chance to answer that question, to really share the quiet part out loud that's on your heart in response to that question. When we come forward, we're talking about the culture of the fire service for Black firefighters nationwide with Joshua Taborn, who's with the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters.
Is a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I feel so alone. I'm embarrassed to talk about it.
How can I help my kid if I can't help myself?
I can't remember when I wasn't stressed.
I don't like this inside.
When you feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions, it's okay to get help. You are not alone. CalHope is here for you with free, safe, and confidential mental health resources for youth, young adults, families, and you. Find support now at calhope.org.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You say you never give in to a meltdown and never fill your feed with kid photos. You say you'd never put a pacifier in your mouth to clean it and never let them run wild through the grocery store. So when you say you'd never let them get into a car without you there, no, it can happen. 1 in 4 hot car deaths happen when a kid gets into an unlocked car and can't get out. Never happens. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. He is Joshua Taborn. He is part of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. And he over here, truth telling. He is speaking his truth, talking about the culture of the fire service, particularly for Black firefighters nationwide. Before the break, Joshua, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about, sort of where do we go from here? And what is it that you believe public officials need to know as they look to continue to fill the ranks of people who lead the fire service, folks that will be called upon to respond to events like the LA wildfires. There's always an opportunity to do it differently. There's always an opportunity to create a culture that allows all of us to do our best. And so what's your message to the public officials that are listening to this right now?
Yeah. And I'm going to maintain the original framing of hope, but I'll be more direct. First of all, we got to start making data-driven decisions. And to do that, we need to start collecting data. So many fire agencies and jurisdictions could not report to you how certain chiefs punish certain firefighters. None of that is collected. The data surrounding the LA issue in January, Mayor Karen Bass cut the budget by 2%, around $17 million. The fire chief that threw her under the bus said that that's why they couldn't respond to that fire. That's just simply not true. With $100 million more, it still would have been a disaster. Why? Because climate change. Why? Because all these surrounding variables. The public is not educated, so on and so forth. But to the public officials here watching this who will appoint fire chiefs, don't just do it for the performance. Putting a Black fire chief or a woman fire chief or a Black woman fire chief, by the way, we need more of those. Simply putting them in place is not enough. You need to support them. You need to protect them. You need to cover them. Because that's not what's happening right now. We're putting minorities in positions of power and then stepping away. And as soon as something goes wrong, it's like, oh, see, we tried and they messed up. Everybody messes up. Everybody makes mistakes. Executive leadership does their best with the environment that they're in. And the same fear that I'm speaking to you about, the chiefs that I know, the Black chiefs that I know, are even more afraid than me. Let me be clear. They are more stressed.
Why?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm protected by a union, right? So to fire me, you got to go through certain steps. They're at will. And to become a chief, to promote for anything under chief level, it's a prescribed process. You take a test, it's all numbers, your education points and all these things. For the chief level, you must do an interview. Well, as you know, interviews are subjective. Some people watching this right now are getting real mad at me. Some people watching this right now are really happy with what I'm saying. We do not protect Black and brown leadership in the fire service. We do not protect the women in the fire service. And this extends to the white women too. And I have to say this or else I'll be really irresponsible. Some of the people who saved my life, both literally and emotionally, and some of them are watching now, were white firefighters, my lieutenants, and they're now captains because they're just so badass. But some of the people who really helped me were white women in the fire service. So it's not a Black versus white issue. What I want these politicians to understand is that the only way you bring everyone together is to create equity within the rules system, within the structure, within the policy. Not to say, oh, well, we need 20 Black, because people conflate affirmative action with DEI. They are not the same. They're not even remotely the same. It's not as simple as like, okay, well, we're going to add 30 firefighters who are Black and look, we fixed racism. No. Digging deep and changing the format as to how you provide training, getting rid of certain traditions. You know, some traditions are good, some are not. Certain traditions, being culturally aware. And as far as the people you're appointing to lead these agencies, besides protecting them, don't let them be the only one up top. I see so many, even in DC, before our current chief, we had a Black fire chief, and like his whole cabinet, the majority of his cabinet was white. And go ahead.
Well, so I've just got to ask you in our remaining minute with you, talk to us about real quickly what role the unions play in all of this, if you can, in about 60 seconds.
Yes, unions are great. Up top, looking down, unions do the work. When the union leadership looks and acts just like the agency or fire leadership, then the same things are happening. Local 36 was a union I was a part of. I loved them. Even still, when it came time to talk about diversity, they said, well, no, we're going to do a human relations committee instead of a diversity committee. And then you know who was part of putting that, who was head of that? A white man. And so, you know, and it's not like they did it on purpose. It's just, blindness is not nefarious. It's not malicious. It's just blindness. But it starts with our unions. Black people in these fire departments need to run for union leadership, and they need to be active. We don't really win union elections because a lot of the Black firefighters are told it doesn't matter. And so they don't participate, which is untrue.
We could go on, and we shall have you back to add more to this conversation. We've learned so much more about the culture of the fire service and the experience of Black firefighters like yourself, because you have been so generous with your lived experience. And so we appreciate you, Joshua Taborn, who's with the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. For all you public officials out there that are streaming or listening to A More Perfect Union, note this very well. Note this very well. Joshua, we'll have you back on again soon.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. When we come forward, we are shifting gears. Remember those presidential pardons? I'm not talking about the ones that President Trump issued. I'm talking about the presidential pardons that former President Biden issued. Well, one of them that got a lot of attention in the final days of his administration was to Marcus Garvey. When we come forward, we're going to talk to Justin Moore. He's a civil rights attorney and advocate for justice who specializes in blending philosophy and his legal expertise with bold action to challenge systems and rewrite narratives. He was a part of making that pardon happen. We're going to tell you that story and more when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580 in afternoon drive time.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Trump administration is offering federal workers buyouts to avoid returning to the office with nearly 8 months' pay and benefits. A judge is temporarily halting President Trump's plan to freeze federal aid. Black New York Attorney General Letitia James is one of several Democratic attorney generals who sued to block the freeze. On Tuesday, a federal judge granted an administrative stay, pausing Trump's plans at least through Monday. South Carolina is joining 18 states urging Costco to drop DEI policies. Attorney General Alan Wilson says they are, quote, about discrimination, not diversity, end quote, and demands the policy be repealed within 30 days. And ahead of the Charleston, South Carolina church mass shooting's 10th anniversary, Low Country groups are gathering, urging lawmakers to close a loophole that allows firearms to be purchased before a background check is approved. Dylan Roof killed 9 people in the anti-Black mass shooting at the Charleston church on June 17, 2015. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black